Chapter 331. Back then, he had personally forced his son and granddaughter into the Roman forest. How could he not know? Since that's the case, let her come. I'll meet her personally. Jing Tingi ordered coldly. His eyes were full of complex emotions. The past events that had been sealed away for many years surged into his mind. Even though it had been more than 10 years since that rainy night, Jing Tingi still felt uneasy every time he thought of it. My lord, Miss Jing Yu requests an audience. At that moment, a manservant hurriedly ran into the hall and bowed to everyone. You've come at the right time. Please come in. Jing Tingi's heart skipped a beat. Jing Tingi knew a little about the rumors about Jing Yu these days. He had to take it to heart because it was related to the 9 emperors. He didn't expect that such an identity would suddenly be revealed. She was actually the eldest granddaughter of the Jing family who had been missing for 15 years. Under the extremely subtle and different gazes of the crowd, Jing Yu, dressed in a dark purple robe, slowly stepped into the hall. She looked around. There were people she knew and people she didn't know. This made the corners of Jing Yu's mouth slowly curl up into a smile. Her gaze fell on Jing Tingi, who was sitting in a high position. Greetings, Prime Minister. Jing Yu casually bowed. Without waiting for Jing Tingi to speak, she straightened her body and stood in a manner that was neither servile nor overbearing. Jing Tingi's eyebrows twitched slightly when he saw her. You are Jing Yu? Jing Tingi looked Jing Yu up and down. Only then did he feel that Jing Yu's face was very similar to his daughter-in-law's. Even without a token, he could recognize her. However, when he looked carefully, he felt that they didn't look alike. It wasn't that their faces didn't resemble each other, but that their temperament and aura were very different. I am Jing Yu. Jing Yu nodded indifferently. The little girl's temperament is not bad. Jing Tingi sighed slightly in his heart. He had been in a high position for a long time and deliberately used his aura to suppress others. However, he didn't see Jing Yu feel the slightest bit uncomfortable or uneasy. She was clearly standing there alone, but she wasn't shy or timid at all. Stand over here, and let me have a look. Jing Yu's eyes flashed with disdain when she heard Jing Tingi's condescending tone. She stepped forward and carefully sized up Jing Yu. Finally, his gaze fell on Jing Yu's eyes. Those ink-black eyes had no impurities at all. After staring at Jing Yu's eyes for a long time, Jing Tingi's tensed heart finally relaxed. There was no difference in color. Could it be that different pupils only existed when one was young? Had it disappeared after such a long time? Jing Tingi's gaze was somewhat puzzled. He squinted at Jing Yu and said, How have you spent all these years? Hee. Perhaps God felt that I wasn't destined to die. I was lucky enough to be saved by a gray wolf. I grew up drinking wolf milk and being with beasts. I grew up in a daze. If I wasn't lucky enough to be discovered by the 9 emperors, I'm afraid I would still be in that boundless forest. Jing Yu's words seemed casual, but the contempt, disdain, and ridicule in her words made Jing Tingi's expression change slightly. It's good that you're back. Jing Zhan's heart ached when he heard Jing Yu's words. The blame and resentment in her words made Jing Zhan's eyes filled with pity. Wait. When Jing Yin saw that Jing Yu was about to acknowledge her ancestors, her expression immediately changed. She quickly said, Grandfather, these are just Jing Yu's one-sided words. Who knows if she's a fake? What if she stole those beads and tokens? Chapter 332. Jing Yin, what nonsense are you talking about? You look so much like my late wife. How can she be a fake? Jing Zhan's face suddenly became very ugly. He angrily clenched the wheelchair in his hand. Uncle, I'm doing this for your own good. Jing Yin looked at Jing Yu unyieldingly and said, There are many people who look alike in this world. What's more, your daughter has been missing for 15 years. Even if you want to acknowledge her ancestry, you can't be careless. Who knows if there will be people with bad intentions sneaking into our Prime Minister's manor? Jing Zhan was angry and was about to reprimand her, but Jing Yu raised her hand to stop him. Miss Jing Yin, your words really hit the nail on the head. Jing Yu looked at Jing Yin with a smile and said, Miss Jing Yin, what do you plan to do? If you want to acknowledge your ancestry, that's fine. As long as you're willing to do a blood test and prove that you're the blood of the Jing family, I'll acknowledge you. Jing Yan arrogantly raised her chin and looked at Jing Yu. Since Miss Jing Yan has said so, then let's do a blood test. Jing Yu listened to Jing Yan's words and raised her eyebrows slightly. However, since it's a blood test, why don't we take advantage of this opportunity to do a blood test together? Jing Yu paused slightly and said. Suddenly, everyone in the hall was stunned. Together what? Blood test? Jing Yan's eyes widened in an instant, and her face was full of astonishment. That's right. Blood test. Jing Yu said with a smile. Since we're all from the Prime Minister's manor and have the blood of the Jing family, this blood must be compatible, right? Since it's a blood test, then let's do it together. What? Not only was Jing Yan dumbfounded, but even Jing Zhang and Jing Tingyi were dumbfounded. What? Isn't it a blood test? Miss Jing Yan just said that it's related to the reputation of the Prime Minister's manor. It wouldn't be good if some unknown person sneaked in. Second Master Jing, you can't be careless, right? Jing Yu said with a smile. She looked relaxed as if she was joking. My children are fine. They're not lost. What's there to acknowledge? Nonsense. After hearing Jing Yu's words, Jing's old face suddenly turned red with anger, and he said angrily, They haven't been lost, but there might be other reasons. Jing Yu said seriously, Well, what if there's an accident that you don't know about? I'm also thinking of the Jing family's bloodline. Am I right, Second Master? Jing Yu had a serious look on her face. Her calm eyes made it seem as if she hadn't said anything. What? An accident? Thinking of the bloodline? Wasn't this a roundabout way of making Jing Zhang a cuckold? He was basically saying that Jing Zhang was most likely someone else's child. Such a great humiliation almost made Jing Zhang spit out a mouthful of blood. What do you mean by that? Jing Zhang's face was flushed red. He glared at Jing Yu as if he wanted to eat her up. What's the point? Didn't Miss Jing Yan say that? For the reputation of the Jing family's bloodline, we have to be careful. Jing Yu smiled and said, Prime Minister, don't you think so? Jing Tingyi's face turned red and white. He glared fiercely at Jing Yan. If she hadn't jumped out and said something about a blood test, such a scene wouldn't have happened. Jing Tingyi took a deep breath and said with a self-righteous and gentle smile, Jing Yu? You're Jing Yu, right? Yin was just fooling around. Grandpa said that you're of the Jing family's bloodline, so you don't need a blood test. Chapter 333. Grandfather. Jing Yin called out unwillingly. Prime Minister, you can't do that. Jing Yu sneered and said, How would I dare to call you grandfather without a blood test? If some people say that I'm a swindler with ulterior motives, I don't care, but it won't be good for the reputation of the Prime Minister's manor, right? What do you mean by test? Nonsense. Jing Zhang couldn't sit still. He slammed the table and stood up angrily. Second Master Jing, why are you so agitated? Could it be guilty conscience? I'm not agitated, but you're agitated. Could it be that you have a guilty conscience? Jing Yu's pitch-black eyes stared at Jing Zhang. Her words made Jing Zhang's breath choke in his throat, unable to go up or down. You. Jing Zhang's face was livid. His hand that pointed at Jing Yu couldn't help but tremble. All of you, shut up. Jing Tingyi slammed the table and glared at the people below. His expression was uncertain. Finally, he took a deep breath and said, Go and call the second and third young masters here. Father. Jing Zhang's face changed drastically. Shut up. Since you want a blood test, then I'll do it myself. Jing Tingyi's face was livid. His eyes scanned the people below. Although Jing Yu's words just now were said casually, Jing Tingyi had an idea. The Jing family was a big family. Who could say that those hidden things weren't true? Looking at Jing Yu's unwillingness to give up, if they didn't comply with her, they were afraid that no one would be able to get off the stage today. Since that was the case, there was no harm in having a blood test. However, Jing Yu had just entered the Prime Minister's manor and already caused such a big commotion. She was really not simple. When Jing Hao and Jing Hong arrived, their gazes towards Jing Yu were filled with hostility. An unexpected calamity had fallen on her head for no reason. How could she still have any intention of befriending her? Jing Yu disdained them. What threat could a few brats pose to her? As long as she was willing, she would play them to death. After a series of comical blood tests, it was indeed the Jing clan's bloodline. That's great. Congratulations, Second Master Jing. Your son is a member of the Jing clan, not someone else's. Jingyu smiled and bowed to Jingzheng. She looked as if she was really happy for him. As soon as she finished speaking, everyone glared at her. It's time to call him second uncle. Jing Zhan was indifferent and had a strange expression on his face, as if he didn't hear anything, which made everyone's faces turn ashen. Oh, second uncle. Jingyu smiled and said, in the future, I will be the granddaughter of the first wife of the Jing family. If I do anything wrong, second uncle won't blame me, right? Jing Zheng fiercely flung his sleeves, but couldn't say a single word. Jing Yu's breathing stagnated. He glared fiercely at Jing Zheng and said, since the bloodline has been confirmed, then inform everyone to clear Jing Yu's name. As for the place to stay, Zhan, you can personally arrange it. Jing Zheng fiercely flung his sleeves, but couldn't say a single word. Jing Tingyi's breathing stagnated. He glared fiercely at Jing Zheng and said, since the bloodline has been confirmed, then inform everyone to clear Jing Yu's name. As for the place to stay, Zhan, you can personally arrange it. Jing Tingyi's breathing stagnated. He glared fiercely at Jing Zheng and said, since the bloodline has been confirmed, then inform everyone to clear Jing Yu's name. As for the place to stay, Zhan, you can personally arrange it. Chapter 334. Jing Tingyi left after saying this. Jing Zheng snorted angrily and left. He had lost a lot of face today. Jingyu looked at the people who left one after another. A smug smile hung on the corner of her mouth. If you don't want me to please you, I'll disgust you first. Jing Lang looked at Jingyu silently and gave her a thumbs up. He had stayed in the Prime Minister's manor for so long, but he had never felt so good before. Cough, cough, cough. Am I considered a member of the Prime Minister's manor? Jingyu coughed and asked doubtfully. When Jing Zhan and Jing Lang heard this, they immediately felt dizzy. So you were just dreaming when you showed off your power just now? You have offended everyone, and you still ask if I'm a member of the Prime Minister's manor. Jingyu moved into the Prime Minister's manor in such a grand manner and established her identity. The original Wild Girl had become the eldest granddaughter of the Prime Minister's manor. She was also the fiancée of the 9th Emperors. Her identity instantly became high and mighty. The Prince's manor, Lotus Garden. This, take it all away. Jingyu waved her hand heroically to let people move the things away. Xiao Qin's face was livid as he watched those people move almost everything that could be moved out of the room. Only then did he realize that he seemed to have been tricked by Jingyu. And that screen. Move it all away. Jingyu walked towards Xiao Qin with a smile. When she saw Xiao Qin's expression, she coughed awkwardly and said, you said it yourself. I can take away whatever I want. And Xiao Qin responded with a cold face. Ayaya, don't put on a coffin face. Jingyu rolled her eyes speechlessly and said, I'm going home to live. Now that I have a home, I can't still live here with you, right? We haven't gotten married yet. Don't you think so? Humph. Xiao Qin snorted coldly. The words I'm not happy were written on his face. Jingyu almost burst out laughing in her heart when she saw his arrogant look. Cough, cough. It's fine. They're all in the Imperial City. We can still meet them if we want to. Jingyu patted Xiao Qin's shoulder generously and said, a woman only gets married once. You must understand how I felt when I got married from my mother's family. It wasn't easy for me to find my family. Xiao Qin, Jingyu said as she looked at Xiao Qin with a pitiful expression. She looked so delicate that Xiao Qin's eyebrows twitched and his hair stood on end. All right, I'll send you back to the Prime Minister's residence. Xiao Qin turned his head and walked out. Oh yeah. Jingyu was so happy that she jumped up and down. However, the moment Xiao Qin turned around to look at her, she immediately hid her delicate and ladylike appearance. A smile flashed across Xiao Qin's eyes, and he walked away. Xiao Qin brought Jingyu and walked towards the Prime Minister's residence. He personally sent Jingyu to the small courtyard of the Prime Minister's residence before leaving. This series of actions gave Jingyu enough support. With the status of the Ninth Emperors, even Jingyu had to come out personally to welcome him and send him off properly. In Xiao, this courtyard is too small. Jingyu looked at the courtyard that she moved into that was half the size of the lotus garden in the prince's residence. Her face was instantly filled with unhappiness. And it is small. In Xiao nodded foolishly. The face of the housekeeper who arranged the courtyard for Jingyu turned green. However, he didn't dare to say anything. He could only stand behind Jingyu and bear with it. He listened to Jingyu's comments about this and that. Eldest miss, this is already the best courtyard in the residence. The housekeeper finally couldn't hold it in anymore and said, Chapter 335. Eldest miss, this is already the best courtyard in the manor. The steward finally couldn't hold it in any longer and said, Dasha, this is still the best courtyard? Jingyu said in surprise, looks like second uncle didn't manage the family well these past few years. He hasn't come up with anything decent in all these years. If this courtyard is considered good, then wouldn't grandfather's courtyard be so small that it can't even stand? Jingyu sighed repeatedly and said, Luckily I'm back. In the future, I will help second uncle share some of the burden. I will definitely bring the family to the next level. Hearing this, the steward's eyes were filled with mockery. Why are you still following me? Do you still want to be rewarded? Jingyu looked at the steward in surprise. Her words instantly made the steward's expression change. He held back his anger and said that he wouldn't dare, then left with a flick of his sleeves, cursing along the way. What, does she really think she's the eldest miss of the Prime Minister's manor? It's just a title. The steward's eyes were filled with disgust. After thinking about it, he turned to Jingzheng's courtyard and told Jingzheng everything that Jingyu had said in full detail. Jingzheng was so angry that he smashed everything in the study. Even when he heard that Jingzheng was back, he wasn't this angry. Now, Jingyu had just entered the manor and made him lose face. She even provoked him like this. He really couldn't stand it. Jingyu had just returned to the Prime Minister's manor, and Jing Yin couldn't wait to find her. Jingyu had been moving things the entire day and didn't have the mind to pay attention to her. She cleanly told Yin Xiao to chase her away. She wanted to sleep. Jingyu, come out. Jing Yan's face was red. She came to find Jingyu, but she was stopped at the door. At this moment, he didn't care about whether they were allowed to enter or not. He directly led his men and barged in. His aggressive appearance made Jingyu, who was about to sleep, feel anger rising in her heart. Jingyu, you. Jing Yan was about to speak when she saw Jingyu. You. What about you? Jingyu glared at Jing Yin and said, Open your eyes and look carefully. I am now the granddaughter of the Prime Minister Manor's first wife. My status is higher than yours. You're just a concubine's daughter, yet you dare to yell at me. Had he learned all the clan rules and etiquette? You bastard. And you. He didn't even want his head anymore. I said I don't want to see anyone. Go and ask elder brother to send a few guards to this young lady's courtyard entrance. Who would dare to barge in again? Kill them all. Jingyu glared fiercely at the crowd and said, My Prime Minister's residence has its own rules and regulations. If he ruined the reputation of the Prime Minister's manor, serve him according to the family rules. Jing Yin. Even if you're the young miss of the Jing clan, I can't let you go. She's just a concubine's daughter, and she dares to make a fuss in front of me. He was truly out of control. Kick them all out. Jingyu waved her hand and left, completely ignoring Jingyu and the others who were stunned by her words. The words concubine's daughter made Jing Yin tremble all over. She dares to speak to me like that. Jing Yan's eyes were filled with disbelief. For so many years, everyone in the manor had been respectful to her. No one had dared to talk about a concubine's daughter because she was the only young lady in the Prime Minister manor. Even if she was a concubine's daughter, she was the only young lady in the manor. But now that Jingyu was back, things were different. Jingyu's bloodline had been verified. She was the granddaughter of the Prime Minister Manor's first wife. Jingyu's words just now were not wrong at all. Chapter 336. What are you still standing there for? Hurry up and invite second miss out. Yin Xiao finally regained her senses. She coughed and ordered arrogantly as she stood at the bottom of the stairs. Yin Xiao was Jing Yu's personal maidservant. Moreover, she was one of the 9 emperors. Who dared to disobey her? When Yin Xiao called her second miss, it made Jing Yan's expression extremely ugly. She even emphasized the word please. Just like that, Jing Yan was so humiliated that she didn't even have the chance to speak to Jing Yu before she was kicked out of the courtyard by Jing Yu. She stood at the entrance of the courtyard for a long time, unable to regain her senses. Jing Yu, I'm not done with you. Jing Yan roared at the tightly shut door in a flustered and exasperated manner. She didn't look like a well-bred young lady at all. Jing Yu lay comfortably on the bed and muttered speechlessly. What was this? This young lady's mouth doesn't only know how to eat. After this incident, Jing Yu had a rare moment of relaxation. Finally, no one came to disturb her. After familiarizing herself with the people in the Prime Minister's residence for a day, she got to know all the people in the backyard. Today, Jing Yu had just returned from Nishang Park and explained all the matters in the shop. Unexpectedly, when she returned to the small courtyard, she saw a woman waiting there. This concubine greets eldest Mississippi. That woman was dressed in gold and silver. Her face was covered in flour. When she spoke, the fragrance that assailed her nostrils made Jing Yu take 2 steps back. Cough, cough, cough. It's second aunt. How come you have the time to come sit in my courtyard? The person in front of her was Jing Zheng's legal wife, Mei Jinghe. Her father was a wealthy businessman. It was also because of her support that Jing Zheng's business could have such great achievements. For so many years, Jing Zheng was in charge of external affairs, while Mei Jinghe was in charge of the matters in the backyard. The treasury's accounts were all handled by Mei Jinghe. One had to admit that this woman was really capable. She handled the affairs of the Prime Minister's residence properly. Jing Tingyi also praised Mei Jinghe greatly. Eldest young miss, this concubine is here to deliver a servant to you. Mei Jinghe was born beautiful, but she was old after all. She was very concerned about her appearance. Her snow-white face was really scary. Send off a maidservant? Jing Yu leaned back slightly and asked with a frown. It's the first time that eldest miss has returned to the Prime Minister's manor. The expenses of the maidservants of the eldest daughter have to be settled for you. Eldest miss, see if any of these maidservants are to your liking. Mei Jinghe smiled very considerately and gently. No need. I have Yin Xiao as my personal maid. That's enough. Jing Yu said casually, just leave a few maidservants to clean the yard. I'm sorry to trouble you, second aunt. This, Mei Jinghe's expression paused slightly. Then, she smiled again and said, it's nothing. This is what this concubine should do? Ha. Jing Yu laughed with a fake smile. She looked at Mei Jinghe and said, second aunt, you came at the right time. I heard that the internal affairs of the Prime Minister's residence were handled by second aunt in the past. Second aunt is really amazing. You must be exhausted these years, right? How can this concubine say that I'm tired to be able to do my part for the Prime Minister's residence? Mei Jinghe's heart skipped a beat. There was a feeling of uneasiness in her heart. She also replied carefully, there's nothing to be afraid of. In the future, with me around, second aunt can have a good rest. Jing Yu said with a smile. Eldest young miss, what do you mean? Mei Jinghe's heart suddenly jumped. She looked at Jing Yu with fear and asked with surprise and confusion in her eyes. Chapter 337. What's wrong? Jing Yu looked at Mei Jinghe in confusion and said, I said that second aunt can rest in the future. Since I'm back, I naturally have to support the family business. I'll have to trouble second aunt to bring me all the accounts of the manor. What? Mei Jinghe was shocked. She didn't expect Jing Yu to be like this. The first thing she said was to snatch the power of the inner courtyard. What's wrong? Don't tell me. Second aunt doesn't want to give it to me? Jing Yu's face was slightly cold. She looked at Mei Jinghe and said, second aunt, I respect you as second uncle's legal wife and call you aunt. I'm the granddaughter of the first wife of the Jing family. Originally, the affairs of the manor should be managed by my mother. Unfortunately, my mother passed away early. Thank you, second aunt, for helping the manor all these years. Now that I'm back, I should take over the affairs of the manor. Don't tell me that second aunt has coveted the power of the matriarch and is unwilling to give it to me? Jingyu looked at Mei Jinghe like a knife and said, if that's the case, then I really have to go to grandfather and ask for an explanation. You. Mei Jinghe's face was extremely ugly. She was about to explode, but she forcibly suppressed her emotions. I don't dare. I don't dare. Mei Jinghe lowered her head and said, I'm just worried. Eldest Miss has never learned how to manage finances. I'm afraid it's not appropriate for you to take over the accounts so hastily. Don't you still have Auntie? Jingyu waved her hand generously and said, if there's anything I don't understand, Auntie will definitely do her best to teach me, right? If so, grandfather will definitely be very happy. I'll have to trouble Auntie in the future. Of course, of course. Mei Jinghe repeatedly agreed. After listening to Jingyu's words, her anxious heart finally relaxed. She exchanged some pleasantries with Jingyu and then respectfully left. When she left, she still had a happy expression on her face. Jingyu smiled as she watched Mei Jinghe leave the courtyard. Only then did the smile on her face slowly disappear, and her eyes narrowed slightly. This Mei Jinghe was not simple. After Mei Jinghe left the courtyard, she slowly stood up straight and looked at Jingyu ferociously. She didn't look respectful at all. She turned around and looked at Jingyu's courtyard. She said icily, it seems like the Jing clan has let a poisonous snake in. What does madam mean? Mei Jinghe's maid, Lu Ping, asked in confusion, you want to snatch the position of matriarch from me? Hurry up and call Steward Wang over. I have something to tell him. Mei Jinghe's eyes turned slightly and she said, you're still a little girl after all. Since you want to check the accounts, I'll let you check as much as you want. Yes. LV Ping bowed. The next day, Mei Jinghe really sent the account book to Jingyu. Jingyu flipped through the account book excitedly, but how could Jingyu possibly understand? Fuck. What kind of method was this? And it was all in capital letters. Jingyu's eyes twitched. She decisively sent the people away, saying that she wanted to study it properly. The person who sent the account book looked at it for a long time. When he saw that Jingyu didn't understand, he smiled and said with relief that the account book should be left with Jingyu. It wouldn't be too late to take it back after checking it. But even though Jingyu couldn't understand, it didn't mean that other people couldn't understand. Chapter 338. However, even though Jingyu couldn't stand it, it wasn't like other people couldn't. In the restaurant, Jingyu leaned comfortably on a chair and drank tea. On the other side, Fang Ziqing and Shen Yuqing were holding onto the account book that Jingyu had brought over and were diligently calculating the accounts. Little Ye, you called this young master here to do this? Fang Ziqing could be said to be incomparably bitter. Seeing Jingyu drinking tea and eating snacks, he simply wanted to rush over and strangle Jingyu to death. Why else do you think I called you here? Jingyu calmly rolled her eyes. As expected of husband and wife, this young master has fallen into your hands. Fang Ziqing glared fiercely at Jingyu and said, you're the same as ninth master. PFFF. Cough, cough, cough. Jingyu choked on the words husband and wife from Fang Ziqing and said, the two of us aren't married yet. What husband and wife? Do you believe that I won't throw you out if you continue to be long-winded? In the future, put up a sign at the entrance of the restaurant that Fang Ziqing and dogs are not allowed to enter. PFFF. Shen Yuqing was calculating the accounts when he heard the two's conversation and couldn't help but laugh. Laugh, laugh, laugh. What are you laughing at? Get back to work. Fang Ziqing glared at Jingyu sullenly and helplessly continued to check the accounts. From morning to evening, all the accounts from the past few years were finished. Fang Ziqing was indeed the son of a scholar. He had his own methods of calculating accounts and was incomparably fast. Shen Yuqing was also an old hand. The two of them combined the accounts and finished checking everything without leaving anything out. Are there no problems with these accounts? Jingyu asked doubtfully. There are no problems at all. Some of the losses have been made up for later. Fang Ziqing was unbearably tired. He rubbed his sore shoulders and looked at Jingyu as he said, on the surface, there are no problems with the accounts, but every residence has a hidden account book. Jingyu, you should pay attention to this. Hidden accounts? Jingyu was stunned for a moment before she remembered that there was such a thing. Besides, it's so easy for people to fake accounts nowadays. Fang Ziqing arched his eyebrows and said, "You should go and search that room. I guarantee that you will definitely find something unexpected." That makes sense. Jing Yu's eyes lit up. She looked at Fang Ziqing with a smile and said, "Can I trouble you to pass a message to Ninth Master? Tell him that I want to borrow his second interrogation officer." Jing Yu said it so matter-of-factly, but Fang Ziqing's face turned completely black. "Jing Yu, do you really think I'm a manservant?" Fang Ziqing went berserk. I just blurted it out." Jing Yu quickly stood up and walked to Fang Ziqing's side. She rubbed Fang Ziqing's shoulders and said, "Young Master Fang, calm down, calm down. A little to the left, a little to the right, a little to the right. Do you know how to massage? A little below. Yes, yes, yes. Rub this for me too. Use more strength. Fang Ziqing commanded Jing Yu comfortably. Jing Yu's face darkened bit by bit. "Use more strength. Did you not eat? Damn you. Do you really think I'm a maid?" Scram. Jing Yu kicked Fang Ziqing's chair over and then left. Tisk. She's really not like a woman. Fang Ziqing grimaced as he rubbed his aching waist. He looked at the departing Jing Yu with a smile in his eyes. Only when he was with Jing Yu did he feel a sense of joy from the bottom of his heart. Chapter 339. Late at night, Jing Yu was bored and holed up in her bedroom. This bedroom had been renovated by Jing Yu and was similar to the rooms in the Wang Fu. However, it was still different. The room that she had finally gotten used to was suddenly changed. This made Jing Yu extremely depressed. Yin Xiao was guarding outside the door. In the dead of the night, Jing Yu was about to fall asleep from waiting. Finally, she heard movement outside the window. She immediately ran outside the window excitedly and opened it. However, the moment Jing Yu opened the window, she was stunned. "Xiao Chen? Why is it you?" Jing Yu raised her eyebrows in surprise. "Didn't she ask to call Xing'er over? Are you unhappy to see this king?" Xiao Chen's face darkened when he heard this. Without another word, he jumped in through the window with one hand. To think that he, the great ninth emperors, actually had to jump in through the window to see Jing Yu. If this were to spread out, wouldn't he become a laughing stock? "Hey, hey, hey." Jing Yu pulled on Xiao Chen, who was about to walk in, and said, "I have serious business to attend to. Where's Xing'er?" Xiao Chen's face became uglier and uglier. He approached Jing Yu step by step. Jing Yu blinked and looked at Xiao Chen. She carefully retreated and said, "Xiao Chen, what are you doing? I really have serious business to attend to. Could it be that in your eyes, this king's martial arts are inferior to a shadow guard?" Xiao Chen was really angry this time. Jing Yu retreated to the screen behind her and had no way out. She carefully looked at Xiao Chen. I don't dare to trouble you." Jing Yu raised her hand and blocked Xiao Chen's approaching chest. "Jing Yu." Xiao Chen's pitch-black eyes flashed with a strange light as he called out Jing Yu's name in a low voice. Jing Yu's heart trembled slightly when she heard this. Her hand unconsciously loosened. Xiao Chen bent down and captured Jing Yu's red lips. This kiss was different from the previous ones. It seemed to have a strong sense of helplessness. Was it reluctance or reluctance? Jing Yu was a little dizzy. Under the candlelight, the side of Xiao Chen's handsome face was illuminated. His pitch-black eyes sparkled with something else. When he raised his hand to gently caress Jing Yu's cheek, she felt as if she had been electrocuted. Jing Yu's body trembled and her heart couldn't help but beat violently. "I'm willing to wait. Wait for the day when you're willing." Xiao Chen looked at Jing Yu with a burning gaze. Jing Yu pursed her lips and looked at Xiao Chen. She slowly lowered her head. Just as she was thinking about how to react, Xiao Chen suddenly wrapped his arm around Jing Yu's waist. When Jing Yu was caught off guard, he leaped out of the window. His floating figure was like a ghost as he instantly leaped onto the roof. Jing Yu's expression froze. She knew what Xiao Chen was trying to do. She restrained her emotions and tried her best to cooperate with his footsteps. She hid and whispered into his ear as she guided him. Finally, they arrived at Xiao Chen's study. Only then did Xiao Chun let go of Jingyu. Split up and search for the account book. Jingyu threw out these words and entered the inner room of the study like a cat. She used the darkness to conceal herself as she casually walked. Her fingers touched every corner, and her eyes darted around as if she was looking for a hidden mechanism. Her seemingly casual movements were actually the best way to attack. Jingyu was able to dodge no matter which angle the attack came from. Then, she would use the things around her to escape. This was an instinct. Jingyu was very familiar with this series of actions. However, Xiao Chun, who was standing in the same spot, had a serious expression on his face as he watched. Chapter 340. When a person had this kind of instinct, it meant that she must have done it often in the past. In this world, there were only two kinds of people who had this kind of instinct. One was an assassin who had undergone long-term training, and the other was a fugitive. Obviously, no matter which kind, it couldn't be Jingyu. But now, Jingyu was showing this kind of behavior very naturally. How could Xiao Chun not be surprised? Jingyu was seriously looking for the hidden compartment and didn't notice Xiao Chen's expression at all. Xiao Chen stood in place for a while and also began to search. Jingyu leaned against the wall and gently knocked on it. As she felt her way, she finally heard an empty voice. Xiao Chen. Jingyu turned her head and called out. Her gaze fell on the candle holder fixed on the wall. Xiao Chun stood beside Jingyu. Jingyu raised her hand and waved the candle holder. Sure enough, it moved. Finally, with a kacha sound, the smooth wall flipped open. Jingyu and Xiao Chun looked at each other and then carefully stepped in. This is simply a treasure trove. Jingyu looked at the dazzling array of ornaments in the secret room in astonishment. Her gaze fell on the bookshelf, and she strode over to look. After rummaging for a while, Jingyu's sharp eyes saw a stack of paper. Xiao Jingran. Jingyu looked carefully. Xiao Chen heard the sound and also came over. It's a letter from Jingzheng and Xiao Jingran. Xiao Chen raised his hand and took a closer look. His face was slightly gloomy as he said, This is good stuff. You want it? Take it if you want. Jingyu generously stuffed the letter in her hand into Xiao Chen's hand without any hesitation. Xiao Chen was slightly surprised and said, You're really not polite? It's not mine. Of course I won't be polite. Jingyu rolled her eyes and continued to rummage. Finally, she found a small account book in a box. Her eyes immediately lit up. She raised her hand and opened the account book. When she saw the contents, a smile appeared on her face. He found it. Jingyu proudly waved the account book in her hand and said, The Prime Minister's residence is going to be turned upside down. Jingzheng is really pitiful. Xiao Chun said this sentence incomparably indifferently. He pulled Jingyu's hand and walked out. But at this moment, the two suddenly heard footsteps outside. Then a faint voice. Second Master, you're still not asleep? Oh, I suddenly remembered some business of business. You're too kind. Master is the one who's working hard. The voice faded away, but the footsteps came closer. Xiao Chun and Jingyu looked at each other. Xiao Chun grabbed Jingyu's waist and jumped onto the roof beam. He carefully shrank his body into the triangular beam to ensure that his shadow would not be exposed. Jingyu lowered her breathing and narrowed her eyes as she looked at the door that was pushed open. The person who walked in was indeed Jingzheng. After Jingzheng entered the room, he lit the candles in the study. Then, he carefully looked outside the door and closed it. Under the nervous gazes of Jingyu and Xiao Chun, he really went into the secret room. After Jingzheng entered, Jingyu and Xiao Chun looked at each other and jumped down from the roof beam. Oh my God! If we don't run now, when will we? Xiao Chen's face was also flushed with sweat. He hugged Jingyu and quickly made his way out of Jingzheng's study. Just as they jumped onto the roof, they heard Jingyu's earth-shattering voice from the room. It scared Jingyu and Xiao Chun so much that they trembled and quickly ran into Jingyu's courtyard. How could he say that he had lost the account book and the secret letter? Second uncle, you can't be saying that this thief was discovered before he stole anything, right? Jingyu looked at Jingzheng with a strange expression as she spoke. That's right. That's right. Jingzhang was still thinking about how to answer when Jingyu said the answer. Woo-woo. Grandfather, look. You can even make up such a terrible lie. Granddaughter is really better off dead. If I stay here like this, I'm afraid that our Prime Minister's manor will be attacked by thieves every day. Jingyu suddenly cried and shouted, looking like she wanted to die. Chapter 342. Enough. Jing Tingyi had a headache from Jing Yu's crying. He glared at Jing Zhang and said, "This Prime Minister left the internal affairs of the manor to you to manage. It seems that I've allowed you to do whatever you want more and more. Don't worry about the shipping rights. Let Ajan take care of it. Also, since Jingyu is back, you should teach her about internal affairs. If you still dare to have any crooked thoughts, go to the manor and reflect on yourself." When Jing Tingyi finished speaking, Jing Zheng's expression changed drastically. During this period of time, he had been dealing with many merchant ships with Jingzhan. Originally, it was already a sure win, but now, because of tonight's incident, he had been stripped of his rights. "Father," Jingzhang quickly said. "Shut up." Jing Tingyi flicked his sleeves and said, "All of you, go down and receive 30 strokes of the rod. If you dare to say anything about today's incident, this Prime Minister will not let you off easily." "Thank you, Lord." The guards hurriedly bowed and responded, their faces full of bitterness. Grandfather has already punished these people. This kind of thing won't happen again in the future. Are you satisfied?" Jing Tingyi's gaze fell on Jingyu, who was wiping her tears, and said, "Thank you, Grandfather. In the end, Yuer is still useless." After speaking, Jingyu seemed to be extremely disappointed. She bowed to Jing Tingyi and said, "I apologize for disturbing Grandfather's rest. It's cold at night. Grandfather, go back and rest early." When Jing Tingyi saw Jingyu's appearance, his breathing stagnated, but he sighed helplessly. He knew that his granddaughter was deliberately distancing herself from him. However, this kind of punishment was already the maximum he could do. After all, Jingyu had just entered the family. Jing Tingyi didn't feel that they had a very close relationship. He only did this because he was giving face to Jingyu, the fiancée of the 9th Emperors. If Jingyu didn't have the relationship with the 9 Emperors, Jing Tingyi would definitely just casually scold her and wouldn't say anything else. However, if this situation was changed to Jingyu, it would probably be a different situation. After all, Jingyu wasn't favored. Jing Tingyi didn't feel anything strange in his heart. He just left with his people. In the blink of an eye, only Jing Zhan and Jing Lang were left in the courtyard. Ouch! I'm so tired. As soon as the person left, Jing Yu's entire body relaxed. She wiped the tears off her face in disgust. Forcing out such a small amount of tears was really killing her. Jing Yu and Jing Lang were dumbfounded as they watched the series of changes in Jing Yu's expression. Jing Zhan blankly called out. "Don't stay outside. Come in quickly." Jing Yu called the two of them into the house. Yin Xiao also looked at Jing Yu blankly. In the end, the corner of her mouth twitched helplessly. She was so moved by Jing Yu's words that she was about to cry. It turned out that the imperial concubine was all an act. After talking so much, "I'm dying of thirst," Jing Yu mumbled, "Yin Xiao, go make a pot of tea?" "Yes." Yin Xiao bowed and retreated. Only then did Jing Lang open his mouth to ask Jing Yu, "What's going on?" What else could it be? Jing Yu rolled her eyes and looked sideways. "There. Look who that is." Jing Lang was slightly stunned. He turned around and saw Xiao Chun tidying his clothes and walking over. Instantly, his expression changed unpredictably. He glared at Xiao Chun angrily and said, "Why are you in Yuer's house? What did you do to Yuer?" Chapter 343. Why are you in Yuer's room? What did you do to Yuer? PFFF. Jing Yu spat out a mouthful of tea. She looked in shock at Jing Lang, who was looking at Xiao Chun with a sorrowful expression. She suddenly felt as if her brain had short-circuited. "What do you think we can do if we sleep in the same room?" Xiao Chun's expression was also strange for a moment, but then he replied very calmly, You, I'll kill you." Jing Lang said as he raised his fist at Xiao Chun. Jingyu swore to the heavens that this was the first time she thought Jing Lang was so adorable. She was about to die from laughter. Big brother, don't mess around. Jingyu quickly grabbed Jing Lang's hand and said with a smile, look carefully, this is the 9th Emperor's. I saw it clearly. What's wrong with the 9th Emperor's? How can the 9th Emperor's do something to my sister? Jing Lang's face turned red as he said, it's just not okay. Io, this is too funny. Cough, cough, cough. Big brother, he's my fiancé, and we didn't do anything. Respect? Jingyu held back her laughter and said seriously, fiancé, didn't do anything? Jing Lang was slightly stunned. Then, he seemed to have thought of something and looked at Xiao Chun with a strange expression. His gaze turned to Jingyu and asked, if he didn't do anything, why did he come out of your room? He's the thief that second uncle wants to catch. Jingyu said calmly. Cough, cough, cough. Jing Zhan, who was listening on the other side, suddenly choked and started coughing. The 9th Emperor's. That thief. Jing Zhan looked at Xiao Chun with a strange expression, and a trace of a smile appeared in his eyes. It's like this. Xiao Chen and I went to Jingzheng's study to steal this thing, and then Jingzheng shouted to catch the thief, so we came here. Then, I used this as a pretext to make a fuss. It's what you just saw. It's that simple. Jingyu blinked and finished speaking. She raised her hand to take the account book and threw it on the table. Account book? Jing Zhan and Jing Lang both had strange expressions. No wonder when they asked Jingzheng to say what he lost, he couldn't say it. If he said it out loud, he'd die. I'll have to trouble Big Brother to give this account book to the old man. Jingyu smiled as she handed it to Jing Lang and said, I guarantee that in a second, Grandfather will let Father be in charge of the family's affairs. Also, I can guarantee that Jingzheng won't be able to retaliate. Right, Xiao Chun? Xiao Chun replied faintly. What do you mean? Jing Zhan asked curiously. Sigh. Xiao Chun accidentally stole the secret letter that Jing Zheng and Xiao Jingran were talking about. If this was taken out and they were charged with the crime of forming a clique for personal gain, do you think Jingzheng will still be in charge of the family's affairs? He should be thinking about how to keep his position, Jingyu said with a smile. Jing Zhan and Jing Lang both had smiles in their eyes. This time, Jingzheng had taken a big tumble. However, this Jingyu was really bold. She had only returned to the prince's mansion for a few days, and she had already made such an earth-shattering event. She was not simple. You're really skilled and bold, Jing Lang said sincerely. Why didn't he think of stealing? Don't I have the 9th Emperors to support me? Jingyu smiled and said, I'll leave the rest to you guys. No problem. Jing Zhan and Jing Lang both agreed and left after chatting for a while. As they left, Jing Lang looked at Xiao Chun and said, Why aren't you leaving? Chapter 344. Shin Yuqing looked at Jingyu running away after saying that. He was suddenly confused. Didn't you want me to go quickly? Before I could take a step, Jingyu had already disappeared. Shin Yuqing shook his head in confusion. He didn't know what was going on with his boss. Jingyu ignored Xiao Chun for 3 days. During these 3 days, an earth-shattering event happened in the Prime Minister's mansion. First, the Prime Minister suddenly became furious and directly took back all the rights of the matriarch from Madame May's hands. He banished the stewards of the mansion and deprived all the power of the Prime Minister's mansion of all internal affairs. When this matter came out, Jingzheng was shocked. He wanted to go and argue with the Prime Minister, but he was scolded and sent away. Originally, this was enough to make him angry. In the imperial court, an imperial censor suddenly stood up and accused Jingzheng of forming a clique for personal gain in front of the emperor. He disrupted the order of the imperial court, and a lot of accusations were put on him, making Jingzheng faint. Although this clique was already known in the hearts of the ministers, no one dared to say it openly. The emperor hated this kind of thing very much. Now that Jingzheng had all the evidence, if the emperor didn't punish Jingzheng, who would he punish? Jingzheng had just had the idea of fighting for the rights of the matriarch, but such a big thing happened here. How could he still care about Mei Jinghe? She didn't have the time to think about it. It was more important to find a way to keep his position. Jingyu was depressed for a long time when she heard the news. It seemed that she had underestimated the position of Jingyu in Jing Tingyi's heart. With such an account in front of him, he only touched his wife and didn't do anything to Jing Zheng. However, there was no hurry. Jingyu still had a backup plan. I'm thinking that this Jing Zheng can't be settled without half a month this time. I have to grasp the rights of the matriarch in grandfather's hands first. In the restaurant, Jingyu, Fang Zicheng, and Shangguan Linglan were sitting together. Jingyu touched her chin and said, "He wants to settle it in half a month? At least a month." Fang Zicheng held his teacup and said, "I will ask my father to put some pressure on Jing Zhang." Me too. Me too. Shangguan Linglan hurriedly raised his hand and said, Yeah, you're simply too amazing. How many days have you returned to the Prime Minister manor?" He had caused such a huge commotion. Awesome. Shangguan Linglan smiled and held Jingyu's hand with a look that said, "I'm awesome too. It just so happens that I have time to deal with an Ichang garden. I'm really busy." Jingyu muttered, "Fang Zicheng, have you found the shop in the west of the city I asked you to find?" "I found it. It's not big, but it's enough for you," Fang Zicheng said with a smile. "It's okay. I'm just opening a dessert shop." Jingyu smiled and said, "I've even thought of a name. It'll be called Come Without Money." PFFF, 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 in unison. They sprayed their saliva all over Jingyu's face. Jingyu took out the desserts and Come Without Money and set up another dessert shop. In this month, Jingyu had been running between 3 places. The reconstruction of the mansion had already reached a stable stage, and Ichang Garden had also opened to attract customers. Jingyu called Fourth Bro, Mao Yi, and Tang Hongyang to hold a grand performance. They even invited the girls from the Qin mansion. It had to be said that this move was simply amazing. Chapter 345. The explosive popularity of the scene startled all the young ladies and nobles. The madams looked at the dazzling array of clothes with fervent eyes. It was obvious that the publicity this time was very effective. The few sets of clothes that Tang Hongyang had prepared were all snatched up. The most interesting thing was that the madams fought over them. In the end, they spent all their money and bought the clothes at the highest price. The name of Nishang Court could be said to have been completely spread at this moment. In the end, the Grand Secretary's wife and the General's wife, these two important figures, showed that they had a close relationship with Nishang Court. Nishang Court could be said to have a firm foothold in the aristocratic circle. As long as there were no mistakes in the following development, they would definitely be able to have a firm foothold in the imperial city. Jingyu arranged for Mao Yi and Su Xingting to help Tang Hongyang manage the shop in Nishang Court. The matters of Nishang Court were tossed and turned for half a month. At the same time, the snack shop in the west of the city also began to be renovated. Jingyu was as busy as a spinning top. In the Prime Minister's residence, Jingyu also displayed amazing management skills. After a month of observation, Jingyu was even more considerate of the Prime Minister's residence. Mei Jinghe, on the other hand, made mistakes everywhere. In the end, it was revealed that she had embezzled money from the Prime Minister's residence and was punished by Jing Tingyi. At this moment, Xiao Chun, who had disappeared for more than 10 days, came back. Jingyu didn't know what Xiao Chun said to Jingyu, but the two of them entered the study as if they were happily chatting. After a while, they came out. Xiao Chun went to the backyard in Jingyu's room. Yin Xiao happily served tea for the two of them and left. Xiao Chun, what did you say to Xiao Chun? Jingyu blinked curiously and asked Xiao Chun. Nothing. Xiao Chun calmly drank his tea and said, "Don't you want the power of the inner courtyard? I just want you to get it faster." Jingyu was slightly embarrassed. Jingyu and Xiao Chun walked in the back garden of the Prime Minister's residence. Yin Xiao and Xingyi followed behind them from a distance. Jingyu and Xiao Chun talked about the interesting things that had happened during this period of time. Their originally delicate relationship had obviously improved greatly. Just as the two of them were talking enthusiastically, they suddenly saw Jing Yin walking towards them from afar with a few servant girls. They were immediately stunned and stopped in their tracks. Jing Yin probably didn't expect to meet Jingyu and the 9 emperors here. Jingyu, Xiao Chun, Yu and Yu, You and you, you and you. You. Jingyu, you and you, you, you. You. Jingyu, you, you of you and you of the you. Got it. Jingyu responded obediently. Xiao Qin tidied Jingyu's hair with a gentle gaze. He didn't even look at Jing Yin as he turned and left. Xingyi bowed slightly to Jingyu and followed after Xiao Chun. Only Jingyu and you were left in the garden. Long time no see, Yin or Mimi. Jingyu turned and smiled at Jing Yin. Jingyu, you invited the 9 emperors to support you, right? Jingyu looked at Jingyu coldly. She didn't even bother to put on a pretense. You? What's wrong with the 9 emperors coming to see his fiancée? Jingyu's expression changed and the smile on her face deepened. Don't think that I don't know what you're thinking. You've only returned to the Prime Minister's estate for a month, and you've already snatched my mother's authority over internal affairs. Now, you've even asked the 9 emperors to speak for grandfather. Jingyu, you're really something. Jingyu glared at Jingyu with hatred. Chapter 346. Jing Yin, based on what you just said, I can get someone to flog you 10 times. Jingyu looked coldly at Jing Yin and said, I can also blame your mother for not teaching properly and let her try. Do you want to try being a mother and learning etiquette? You. Jing Yin glared angrily at Jingyu. But you're right about one thing. I have the ability. If I don't have the ability, how can I beat your mother? Jingyu smiled at Jing Yin and said, Go back and tell your mother that I can let her live a peaceful life in the Prime Minister's manor. If she angers me, she's just a rich merchant. Jingyu didn't say anything else. She looked indifferently at Jing Yin and turned to leave. Jing Yin stood in place, trembling with anger. She ran to Mei Jinghe's courtyard and told her everything that Jingyu had said. Mother, look at what she said. Jing Yan's face was full of anger. Yinner, don't provoke Jingyu during this time. Mei Jinghe looked at Jing Yin with a serious expression and said, Jingyu is not joking. Do you really think that Jingyu can't do anything to me? I've underestimated this girl. Mother. Jing Yin stared at Mei Jinghe with wide eyes. Listen to Mother. Mei Jinghe held Jing Yan's hand and said, Right now, she's in the limelight. The higher she climbs, the harder she will fall. We need to follow her. As long as we find a point, we can beat her to the ground. So before that, Yinner, you must know your place. Mother, I understand. Jing Yin nodded, not fully understanding. Right now, you only need to win the second prince's favor and perform well in front of your grandfather. If you can become a princess in the future, this is the most important thing. Mei Jinghe pursed her lips and looked at Jing Yin with a smile. In 2 months, it will be the celebration of the 20th anniversary of His Majesty's Ascension. At that time, all the countries will come to congratulate you. You have to hurry. Yes, I understand. Jing Yan's cheeks flushed when she heard this. She looked very shy. Xiao Qin's words came true. The next day, Jingyu handed over the management of the inner courtyard to Jingyu. All the maids, guards, and stewards were handed over to Jingyu to manage. As the saying goes, a new broom swears the whip. Of course, Jingyu had to start the fire. That day, Jingyu gathered all the maidservants in the inner court together and gave them an impassioned speech. She casually found an excuse to catch a disobedient maidservant and beat her fiercely in front of everyone. She didn't stop until she saw blood. She beat the maidservant until she was half dead and half alive, her skin and flesh torn apart. Giving a sweet date after a slap was the best way to win people's hearts. Jingyu naturally did the same. While she punished people with a cane, she counted what contributions a certain person had made to the family. The reward was more than their 1 month's salary. Now, everyone became excited. In this way, most people knew that Jingyu was going to punish them fiercely. The confidants of the second master were almost half dead after being tortured by Jingyu. These days are simply too good. Jingyu sat happily with her legs crossed in the elegant room of the restaurant and drank tea. Jingyu, Jingyu, Jingyu. When Jingyu was drinking tea happily, a hurried call sounded. Before Jingyu could react, she saw Shangguan Linglan rush into the elegant room like a gust of wind. Without saying anything, he pulled Jingyu's hand and ran out. Chapter 347. Without another word, he grabbed Jingyu's hand and ran out. Hey, what are you doing? Jingyu hurriedly put down the teacup in her hand and followed Shangguan Linglong down the stairs. Something earth-shattering. The second prince and the ninth emperors are racing horses at the racecourse. Hurry and come with me. If we're late, we won't be able to see it. Shangguan Linglong quickly pushed Jingyu into the carriage and said, Don't ask me how I know. The entire imperial city is in an uproar. Miaoqiu is already rushing to the racecourse. We have to hurry. What nonsense. Jingyu's mind was filled with confusion. She blinked and asked, Why would the ninth emperors be racing horses with the second prince? I don't know the specifics, but it's a race. Shangguan Linglong panted and said, We'll know when we get there. It's at a small racecourse in the south of the city. Jingyu's face was filled with confusion as she followed Shangguan Linglong to the rumored small racecourse. There were already many people surrounding the racecourse. Jingyu and Shangguan Linglong tried their best to squeeze in. How was this place small? It was very big, okay? Jingyu helplessly looked around and saw Lu Miaoqiu waving at her from afar. She hurriedly walked over. The outer circle was filled with commoner ladies, while the inner circle was filled with nobles. Further in, she saw Xiao Chun and Xiao Jingran, each holding a horse. They seemed to be talking, but it was too far away for her to hear what they were saying. What's going on? It's too big of a scene. Jingyu and Shangguan Linglong struggled to crawl to Lu Miaoqiu's side and asked as they watched the commotion below. Yeah, you're finally here. When Lu Miaoqiu saw that Jingyu had arrived, she hurriedly grabbed Jingyu's hand and said, I also heard from others that the ninth emperor seemed to have made a bet with the second prince. The wager was you. Damn. What? Jingyu was so shocked that she almost jumped up. To be precise, the second prince asked the emperor to take you as his consort in front of the ninth emperors. The two of them couldn't come to an agreement, and then this horse race happened. Lu Miaoqiu explained. Looking at Jingyu, who was about to explode, she smiled gloatingly. Yaya is so popular. What the hell? I'm a wager. Damn. Jingyu was completely enraged. She angrily ran towards Xiao Chun. However, just as Jingyu was about to run down, Xiao Chun and Xiao Jingran had already mounted their horses. They looked like they were about to start the race. The second prince? He wants to marry Jingyu? Shangguan Linglong was stunned for a long time before he reacted. He looked at Jingyu strangely and said, I heard from my father that the second prince has an engagement with the prime minister's daughter. Wasn't it always said to be Jingyan? How did it become Jingyu? What? Engagement? Jingyu was stunned and looked at Shangguan Linglong in confusion. It's true. Lu Miaoqiu nodded and said, I also know about this matter. I heard that the eldest princess and the prime minister's wife casually talked about it. In the end, it wasn't official. The emperor also didn't say anything. The prime minister's daughter is worthy of the prince. That's right. In the past, Jingyan always used this title to run to the second prince's residence. The second prince also didn't refuse. I thought Jingyan was already set to be the princess. Shangguan Linglong said. Chapter 348. This is going to be fun. The second prince didn't choose Jing Yin as his bride. Ha ha ha. Shangguan Linglong laughed and said, Let's see how arrogant she can be in front of us in the future. She's been acting all high and mighty for so many years. It's really infuriating. Hey. Jingyu tugged at Shangguan Linglong and Lu Miaoqiu and said unhappily, Why do you two look so happy? I'm the one who's being proposed to. And these two men are using me as a bet. This is simply. Yeah, don't worry. Lu Miaoqiu looked at Jingyu and said, You're the only one in the Tokyo kingdom that can make the imperial prince and imperial uncle fight over each other. Who cares about them fighting over each other? I'm really speechless. Jingyu's face was filled with black lines. Suddenly, she heard a burst of cheers. Only then did she realize that Xiao Chun and Xiao Jingran had already started running. The two horses rushed out as fast as lightning, and there was a burst of screams outside. Ninth emperors, second prince. There was a lot of fanatical cheers. Originally, Jingyu thought that Xiao Qin already had a lot of fans. Today, she suddenly realized that Xiao Jingran also had a lot of fans. Looking at those girls who were about to faint from his handsomeness, she couldn't help but shiver. How was Xiao Jingran handsome? He couldn't even compare to a single finger of the ninth emperor's. Okay? Jingyu looked at the competition below with shining eyes. The two of them were running side by side, and neither was giving way to the other. The rhythm of the competition made the fans outside very excited. Shangguan Linglan and Lu Miaoqiu were also very nervous. Xiao Qin, if you dare to lose, I won't let you off. I won't forgive you. The two horses galloped around the huge horse farm. When they got close to Jingyu, Jingyu shouted loudly. It was unknown whether Xiao Qin heard it or not. Shangguan Linglan and Lu Miaoqiu were stunned by Jingyu's bold words. What are you looking at? Jingyu rolled her eyes and continued to watch the match. Ahem. Shangguan Linglan coughed silently and exchanged glances with Lu Miaoqiu. Their eyes twinkled with amusement. In this world, only a woman like Jingyu would dare to be so unafraid of the public's gaze and do whatever she wanted. In the horse farm, the winner was determined by 3 rounds. Now that it was the second round, everyone was watching nervously. Suddenly, there was an unforeseen event. While the two were racing, Xiao Qin's horse suddenly seemed to be temporarily disobedient. Xiao Jingran was overjoyed and quickly overtook him. What's going on? Everyone's eyes were filled with confusion. Ha! The horse completely disobeyed Xiao Qin's control and suddenly became violent. While Xiao Qin was unprepared, it rushed forward crazily. Its speed was so fast that it directly bumped into Xiao Jingran's horse. Oh no! Jingyu's eyes narrowed. She leaned on the railing and watched as Xiao Qin lost control of the horse. Her eyes revealed a faint trace of anxiety. Xiao Qin's horse overtook Xiao Jingran. Xiao Jingran was hit by Xiao Qin and almost fell off his horse. The crowd outside the horse exclaimed. Xiao Jingran was also shocked. Jingyu could not bear it anymore. She held onto the railing and flipped over, running down the stairs. Give me the horse. Jingyu raised her hand and snatched the horse from the guard. Under everyone's surprised gaze, she raised her whip and chased after Xiao Qin. Chapter 349. Jingyu. Shangguan Linglan and Lu Miaoqiu were both shocked and ran down the stairs. They looked at Jingyu, who was already waving her whip and chasing after the horse. Their eyes flashed with anxiety. Jia. When Jingyu entered the scene, everyone exclaimed. Xiao Qin was forced to stop the horse. At this moment, he also realized that something was wrong. The horse that Xiao Qin was sitting on shook and jumped vigorously, as if it wanted to throw Xiao Qin off its back. It was also running. If it threw Xiao Qin off, it would definitely break his bones. Xiao Qin's face was ashen. He tried to stabilize the horse under him, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't. His strength was so great that it made the surrounding spectators sweat. Xiao Qin. Jingyu quickly came to Xiao Qin's side. She looked at Xiao Qin and shouted, Xiao Qin, let go. Xiao Qin held the reins tightly and didn't reply. Damn it. While Jingyu was chasing after the horse, the guards who were guarding the horse farm, as well as Xing 1 and Xing 2, all mounted their horses and surrounded Xiao Qin. The horse seemed to be irritated, as it raised its front hooves high and neighed on the spot. Xiao Qin was almost thrown off the horse. At this moment, the guard at the horse farm threw the rope in his hand over the horse's head. Everyone rushed forward to stop the horse, but they didn't expect the horse to be so strong. It directly shook off the 3 guards and stepped on one of the guards' wrists. Ah! A cracking sound and an earth-shattering scream were heard. That person's hand seemed to be broken. Xiao Qin, let go of the horse. Come to my horse. Jingyu's eyes turned, and she swung her whip towards Xiao Qin. This action was undoubtedly dangerous. If she was hit by the crazy horse, Jingyu wouldn't be able to escape unscathed. You guys, restrain the horse's head and don't let it move. Xiao Qin, look for an opportunity to come over. Jingyu quickly gave the order, and everyone responded, swinging the ropes in their hands towards the horse's head. Jingyu drove the horse close to Xiao Qin. The moment she took control of the horse, Xiao Chun let go of the reins, kicked the horse's back hard, and spun around to sit on Jingyu's horse. Ha! The horse neighed and Jingyu shouted, "Hit the horse's legs." Xing Yi and Xing Er saw that Xiao Chun wasn't on the crazy horse's back. How could they hesitate? They hit the horse's legs with the rod in their hands. The crazy horse neighed in pain and knelt down. A group of guards saw the opportunity and rushed forward to hold down the rampaging horse. "Are you okay?" Xiao Chun and Jingyu dismounted. Jingyu quickly grabbed Xiao Qin's hand and asked, "Who told you to do such a dangerous thing?" Xiao Qin held Jingyu's hand and looked her up and down. His face was slightly pale. Seeing that Jingyu wasn't injured, he let out a sigh of relief. When Jingyu came over, Xiao Chun was frightened. "Isn't it all because of you?" Jingyu glared at Xiao Chun. She looked sideways at the crazy horse that was being held down by the guards and quickly walked over. "Imperial concubine, wait until we subdue it." Xing Er quickly blocked Jingyu's path. "I'm fine." Jingyu shook her head at Xing Er and walked towards the crazy horse. It was being held down by dozens of guards. The crazy horse was still struggling and neighing. Jingyu's eyes flashed with a strange light. She quickly walked over and squatted down beside the crazy horse. She raised her hand and placed it on the horse's face. "Miss, quickly get out of the way. This horse is crazy. We can't hold it down." A guard saw Jingyu walk over and quickly said, Chapter 350. Jingyu ignored that person and looked into the horse's eyes quietly. She closed her eyes and whispered into the horse's ear, "Be quiet." Hiss, hiss. The horse struggled with all its might. Jingyu's two simple words seemed to have a strange magical power. Under everyone's shocked and incredulous gazes, the struggling horse gradually lost its strength as though it was exhausted. What's going on? The group of guards who were pressing down on the horse with all their might felt that the horse was no longer moving. Instantly, their eyes were filled with incomparable shock. Xiao Chun had just stood beside Jingyu when he saw this scene. Instantly, a look of deep thought and astonishment flashed across his eyes. You're the 9th Imperial Concubine? The 9th Imperial Concubine who can tame gray wolves? The guard who spoke earlier suddenly remembered. His words shocked the surrounding guards. Although it had been a long time, the incident of Jingyu bringing 2 gray wolves into the city that day was still deeply imprinted in everyone's minds. Phew. Jingyu slowly retracted her hand and stood up. "It's fine now." How did you do it?" That guard was clearly frightened. He looked at Jingyu in horror as he asked, "It's probably because I have the sin of wolves on me. That's why it's so afraid." Jingyu didn't even blink as she casually lied. "I think you should investigate why this horse suddenly went crazy. Who wants to harm the 9th Imperial Concubine? This is a big matter." Yes. Hearing this, the guards' hearts trembled as they hurriedly agreed. The incident today had obviously shocked everyone. With such an incident, it was already impossible to determine who the winner of this competition was. They could only leave it as it was. However, the news of these 2 people fighting over Jingyu spread. Jingyu once again became the target of public criticism. "Xiao Chun, I really admire you." Jingyu stared at Xiao Chun angrily as she applied medicine for him and said, "How dare you use me to bet with Xiao Chun?" Xiao Chun's arm was a little bruised, so Jingyu was helping Xiao Chun apply medicine in the carriage. Xing Yi and Xing Er were guarding outside the carriage. "I heard it." Xiao Chun stared at Jingyu for a long time before speaking up. Jingyu was slightly stunned. She looked at Xiao Chun doubtfully and asked, "What? You want me to win?" Xiao Chun smiled and said, "I heard you." Jingyu suddenly felt embarrassed. It turned out that Xiao Chun had heard her shouting from the stands. "Don't interrupt. You still haven't told me how you made a bet with Xiao Jingran." Jingyu took a piece of gauze from the side to bandage Xiao Chin's wound and asked, "Also, why did Xiao Jingran suddenly ask the emperor to marry me? This is simply too deceptive." "It's very simple." Xiao Qian narrowed his eyes and leaned against the wall of the carriage. He said, Xiao Jingran and I have been fighting for many years, thinking of ways to defeat me. I made a bet with him because I wanted to win him fair and square. He didn't want to marry you. He wanted to marry the identity of the Prime Minister's daughter. Can't he marry Jing Yin? Why does he want to marry me? Jing Yu was stunned. Xiao Chen looked at Jing Yu as if he was looking at an idiot and said, "Did you not hear what I said just now? You still don't understand." "I understand." Jing Yu blinked and replied. She looked like she understood but still didn't understand, which made the corner of Xiao Chen's mouth twitch. Chapter 351. Xiao Jingran wants to defeat me. He wants to defeat me in everything, including stealing my woman. Xiao Chen pursed his lips and said, "I have to say, his actions are extremely childish. However, in order to protect your identity as the 9th imperial concubine, I naturally have to accept his challenge, right?" Jing Yu raised her hand to tie a knot and said, "You're even more childish. I can marry whoever I want. Your actions are simply violating my human rights." Jing Yu slammed the lid on the medicine box and glared at Xiao Qian with hidden bitterness. "Haven't you thought about what would happen if you lost? Do you really want me to marry Xiao Jingran? Reality has proven that you can only be my 9th imperial concubine." Xiao Qian looked at Jing Yu with incomparable determination. His expression was simply, "You can continue to show off." Jing Yu glared at Xiao Qian with incomparable disdain. She stood up and said, "I'm leaving first. Clearly, someone is targeting you. You should investigate this properly." "Wait." Xiao Qian raised his hand to grab Jing Yu's hand and looked at Jing Yu with a burning gaze. "What's wrong?" Jing Yu paused and asked curiously, "You're leaving just like that?" Xiao Qian glared at Jing Yu with hidden bitterness, causing Jing Yu's hair to stand on end. She blinked and asked, "If I'm not leaving, then what am I doing here?" "You damned woman." Xiao Qian's expression darkened. He pulled Jing Yu into his embrace and wrapped his arms around Jing Yu's waist. "How long has it been since we last met? Now I suddenly regret letting you go back to the Prime Minister's residence." Cough, cough, cough. Jing Yu's face turned red at a speed visible to the naked eye. "What nonsense are you spouting?" Jing Yu glared at Xiao Qian and said, "I have to go home. Otherwise, my father will be worried." "Jing Yu." Xiao Qian's expression turned cold. "Ayaya, that's it. You take care of yourself." Jing Yu quickly spoke and broke free from Xiao Qian's hand. She slipped out of the carriage and ran away quickly without even seeing Xing Er's greeting. Xing Yi and Xing Er looked at each other in confusion. When Jing Yu returned to the Prime Minister's residence, it was obvious that the residence was in an uproar. Jing Yu didn't even go to the main hall. As soon as she came back, she went to her room. Jing Yu was already prepared. She was waiting for Jing Yin to barge into her room. Then, she could use this as a pretext to scold her. Jing Yu would never be polite to those who came to her door to be scolded. But strangely, Jing Yu waited for a long time, but Jing Yin didn't come. This didn't make sense. According to Jing Yan's temper, her fiancé was about to marry someone else. Wasn't she seeking death? Why wasn't there any movement? "In Xiao." Jing Yu raised her voice and called In Xiao into the room. "Imperial consort." In Xiao obediently bowed to Jing Yu. "Why can't you change the way you address me?" Jing Yu rolled her eyes speechlessly. She looked at In Xiao and asked, "Why isn't there any movement from Jing Yin today? She shouldn't be so quiet about such a big matter." Imperial consort, second miss has already made a fuss. In Xiao arched her eyebrows and said, "Because you haven't returned, second miss has almost turned the Prime Minister's residence upside down. This servant also thought that when you returned, second miss would definitely make a fuss." Unexpectedly, after Madame Mei came and took second miss away, second miss quieted down. Mei Jinghe? Jing Yu's heart skipped a beat. She slowly frowned and said, "It seems that Jing Yin listens to Mei Jinghe." Chapter 352. Imperial Concubine. Recently, Second Master's place has been very quiet. It should have something to do with Madame May. After Second Miss came out of Madame May's room, she calmed down and dressed herself up before leaving. This servant has asked the driver, and he said that Second Miss went to Second Prince's residence. Yin Xiao looked at Jingyu and said, "She's learned her lesson." Jingyu clicked her tongue and sighed. This made Jinghe was truly worthy of being the person in charge of the inner courtyard. So many of Jing Zheng's concubines were suppressed by Mei Jinghe to the point that they couldn't raise their heads. From this matter, it could be seen that Mei Jinghe wasn't someone easy to deal with. Yin Xiao, have someone pay attention to Madame Mei's movements. If there are any problems, remember to inform me immediately. Jing Yu's eyes turned as she spoke.
Yes.
Yin Xiao bowed and acknowledged. The night was hazy. Jing Yu was hugging her blanket and sleeping comfortably when she suddenly heard a light sound coming from outside. Jing Yu's eyes abruptly opened. She sat up and looked over. The window was wide open, and there was a black figure standing by the window, closing the window. Xiao Chen? Jing Yu was stunned. Looking at Xiao Chen, who was slowly walking over, she asked with a puzzled expression, "What are you doing here in the middle of the night instead of sleeping?" Sleeping? Xiao Chen raised his hand and started to take off his clothes. Jing Yu was so shocked that her jaw almost dropped. "You, why didn't you go back to the prince's residence to sleep? Why did you come here?" Jing Yu looked at Xiao Chen, who was about to step onto the bed, and hurriedly pushed against Xiao Chen's chest in a fluster, saying, "No, no. If someone finds out, it'll be bad. Quickly get down. What's there to be afraid of if they find out? I'm your fiancé." Xiao Chen grabbed Jing Yu's hand, and without another word, he crawled under the blanket and pulled Jing Yu into his embrace. "Aya." Jing Yu's head bumped into Xiao Chen's arm, and she glared at Xiao Chen with hidden bitterness. "Sleep." Xiao Chen lowered the curtains and hugged Jing Yu's soft body with a satisfied smile. He ignored Jing Yu's protests and closed his eyes. Jing Yu struggled for a long time, but couldn't break free from Xiao Chen's hand. Instead, he held her even tighter. She helplessly pouted and looked at Xiao Chen, who had closed his eyes. She sighed silently and closed her eyes as well. She moved her body and found a comfortable position to continue sleeping. Jingyu didn't know if she was already used to it or if there was some other reason, but the familiar scent on Xiao Chen's body made her feel especially at ease. She was used to a light sleeper all year round, but every time Xiao Chen was by her side, she could fall into a deep sleep so peacefully. Don't move." Jingyu hugged Xiao Chen's waist tightly and buried her head in Xiao Chen's chest. Her small mouth was slightly open as she breathed in and out. She looked very cute. Xiao Chen was originally focused on Jingyu. However, as he stared and stared, he suddenly noticed a suspicious shiny thing at the corner of Jingyu's mouth. It looked like it was about to flow down. Xiao Chen's face darkened, and he raised his hand to move Jingyu's head away. However, Jingyu hugged him tightly with dissatisfaction. "Jingyu." Xiao Chen gritted his teeth and looked at Jingyu. He saw the sparkling and translucent saliva dripping down from the corner of her mouth and staining his snow-white inner garment. His skin also felt a little warm. Xiao Chen couldn't take it anymore. He pushed Jingyu's head away and quickly took off his inner garment. What are you doing?" Jingyu suddenly jumped up. She looked as if she hadn't woken up yet. She raised her hand and wiped the corner of her mouth. Jingyu suddenly jumped up and said loudly, "Xiao Chen, you actually spat at me while I was sleeping." Chapter 353. Xiao Chen, you actually spat at me while I was sleeping. Xiao Chen had just taken off his clothes and was currently half naked. When he heard Jingyu suddenly spit out such a sentence, 3 black lines clearly slid down his face. He casually threw the inner garment in his hand at Jingyu and said with a black face, "Wash the clothes, they're all covered in your saliva." "A what?" Jingyu was stunned. Looking at the obvious water stain on the inner garment, she instantly felt embarrassed. After all this fuss, it turned out that she had drooled in her sleep. Xiao Chen stepped down from the bed and raised his hand to take the clothes on the screen. Just as he was about to put them on, Yin Xiao, as usual, walked into the room with a basin for washing up. She smiled and said, "Imperial consort, you woke up really early today. Yin Xiao stared in shock at the half-naked Xiao Chun standing in front of the screen to take the clothes. For a moment, she even forgot to react. Put down the things and leave. Xiao Chun raised his hand to drape the clothes on his body and said indifferently, "Ah, oh, yes, this servant will take her leave." Yin Xiao hurriedly came back to her senses and hurriedly put down the things in her hands. She respectfully left the room, her heart filled with confusion. Why would the Ninth Emperors be in the Imperial Consort's room? If she didn't remember wrongly, this seemed to be the Prime Minister's residence. Yin Xiao's face was filled with confusion, but in the end, she raised her hand and slapped herself. After interacting with Jingyu for so many days, Yin Xiao was no longer as restrained as before. That was why she had boldly entered the room. Luckily, she didn't encounter anything embarrassing. Otherwise, Yin Xiao's face instantly flushed red as she thought of this. Just now, the Ninth Emperors didn't seem to be wearing any clothes. The Imperial Consort seemed to be on the bed, wearing no clothes. Yin Xiao's eyes widened, and she hurriedly shook her head to throw out all the thoughts in her head. However, the blush on her face didn't fade. Xiao Chun had obviously flown out of the window. Yes, he had flown out. Jingyu leaned against the window and looked at Xiao Chen's elegant appearance after using his qinggong. Her face was filled with envy. The ancient qinggong was really something. Jingyu saw that Xiao Chun had left before she called Yin Xiao in to help her wash up and dress up. Once a person had been served for a long time, they would be incomparably lazy if they were made to work again. Jingyu was just like that. She had never done anything like putting on clothes and making the bed before. Now that she had someone to serve her, she would enjoy it. They're all here. In the restaurant, Jingyu looked sideways at Lu Man, Tang Hongyang, and Shen Yuqing, who had arrived one after another. They were the leaders of the three industries. Beside Jingyu were Jing Zhan and Jing Lang. The six of them were gathered together in a private room. "Boss, they're all here." Shen Yuqing was the first to follow Jingyu. When he heard the question, he nodded slowly. "I called everyone here today because I have an important matter for everyone to do." Jingyu arched her brows and looked at everyone as she said, "I believe you all know who I am. This is my father, the first old master of the Prime Minister's residence, Jing Zhan. This is my elder brother, the eldest grandson of the Prime Minister's residence. I am Jingyu, the eldest granddaughter of the Prime Minister's residence, and also the fiancée of the Ninth Emperors." Yes, we all know. Tang Hongyang still had some surprise in his eyes. Lu Man and the other two bowed to Jing Zhan and Jing Lang. The situation in the Prime Minister's residence isn't a secret. You all must have heard about it. I called you all here today because of the competition for the position of family head. Jingyu looked at everyone and continued speaking. Chapter 354. Shen Yuqing and Lu Man looked at each other, then cupped their hands at Jingyu and said, "Boss, if you have any orders, please don't hesitate to tell us. We will do our best to help you. This matter is very important to me. It is also the first step in my fight for the position of the head of the household for my father." Jingyu narrowed her eyes at the three and said, "I want you to use all the resources in your hands to suppress the business of the Prime Minister's residence." "What?" Tang Hongyang was stunned for a moment, then frowned and said, "Boss, the Prime Minister's residence has over 100 shops of various sizes in the Imperial City. Moreover, Second Master Jing Zheng's connections are so wide that we can't compare. Second Uncle Tang, have you forgotten that you are no longer the insignificant tailor from before? You are now the store manager of the famous Enrich court in the capital. Even the general's wife has to give you some face. I believe that with Second Uncle Tang's methods, suppressing your competitors won't be too much of a problem." Jing Yu's lips slowly curled into a smile as she said this to Tang Hongyang. Tang Hongyang had always been careful when doing things, and this attitude was on display at this moment. "Besides, I only want you to suppress the Prime Minister's residence's shops. I didn't ask him to go against him." Jingyu raised her chin and said, "You just need to communicate more with other business partners and ignore the Prime Minister's residence. Also, you need to indirectly express your dissatisfaction with the Prime Minister's residence. I believe that everyone here is a businessman and will understand what you mean. Boss, I think this method is feasible. Lu Man said indifferently. If we want to talk about information, our chain restaurant is the best place for it to spread. As long as we suppress all three businesses, I think that even if the Prime Minister's residence wants to cause trouble, they will have to think twice. I also think it's feasible. Shin Yuqing said, right now, the restaurant's reputation is deeply rooted in people's hearts. Many people want a share of the profits. We can use this name to pull in more business partners. Second Uncle Tang, don't worry. We have boss. That's right. Second Uncle Tang, your habit of being cautious hasn't changed at all. No wonder the restaurant hasn't seen its glory after more than 10 years, Lu Man said disdainfully. Lu Man said disdainfully. She looked at Tang Hongyang with a mocking gaze. They were on the same street and they were old acquaintances. It was said that when Tang Hongyang was still the second young master of the Tang family, he had an affair with Lu Man. However, now that he was old, it was thought that they would never cross paths again. Who would have thought that because of Jingyu, the two of them would meet again? It's better to be safe than sorry. I'm doing this for the sake of the boss. Hearing Lu Man's words, Tang Hongyang's old face flushed red. He mumbled something in response, which made Jingyu laugh out loud. Since none of you have any objections, then go ahead and do it. Jingyu's eyes curved into crescents as she smiled and said, if anything happens, I'll take responsibility. No matter what, I am still the fiancé of the 9th Emperors. You can rest assured and do as you wish. Yes, we'll listen to boss. Hearing Jingyu's words, Tang Hongyang breathed a sigh of relief. With the 9th Emperors backing him, he had more confidence in his words. Everyone exchanged some pleasantries and dispersed, leaving only Jing Zhan and Jing Lang in the private room. Is it really okay for you to do this? Jing Zhan raised his hand and put down the teacup in his hand. He frowned and asked Jingyu. Chapter 355. It's fine. Jingyu grinned and said, we didn't steal from Jingzhang. I want him to come to me himself. You're really ruthless, said Jing Lang, smiling. Jing Lang crossed his arms and said with a smile, you can get people from all walks of life to suppress the Prime Minister's manor, but you can't make the Prime Minister's manor fall. However, the loss of the shop will definitely be shown. If Father brings up the matter of taking over the shop at this time, I think Second Uncle will be impatient to deliver the shop. Hee, that's exactly what I was thinking. Jingyu grinned and looked at Jing Lang with a grin. You have a way, said Jing Zhan, smiling indifferently. I thought that the account book would allow Grandpa to weaken Second Uncle's power. I didn't think that he would only take away Second Aunt's power. If one method doesn't work, then I'll change it. Jingyu shrugged nonchalantly and said, Father, just watch. 2 months is enough to make him flustered, not to mention at such a delicate moment in the court. All right, I'll wait, said Jing Zhan, nodding slowly. Jingyu chatted with Jing Zhan and the other two for a while before leaving. Jing Lang went to the army while Jing Zhan returned to the prince's mansion. Since Jingyu was so focused on the matters of the shop, Jing Zhan naturally couldn't stay idle. He also wanted to make the situation in the imperial court as chaotic as possible. In Jingyu's book, the business of the restaurant was getting better and better. The dessert shop was also successfully separated from the restaurant. It was completely independent. Of course, the dessert shop wasn't called No Money Comes. It was called Can You Dian? It was a very interesting name. At that moment, Jingyu's influence became more and more obvious. She refused to buy food, sauces, rice, vegetables, and fruits from the Jing clan. The tailor's shop refused to buy cloth from the Jing clan, either. She refused to buy anything from the Jing clan, as if she had a tacit agreement with the Jing clan. Every time they bought things, intentionally or unintentionally, they said that they wanted to oppress the Jing clan. The Qin Pavilion was even more ruthless. All the officials and merchants who had a good relationship with the Jing clan were refused entry. The Qin Pavilion didn't welcome the Jing clan. The whole imperial city was in an uproar. People couldn't ignore what was going on. People who used to be friends with the Jing clan were miserable. Their businesses were declining, and they were extremely worried. Until one day, a merchant couldn't take it anymore and announced that he was cutting off all relations with the Jing clan. He wouldn't deliver goods to the Jing clan anymore. Immediately, the situation changed. His business suddenly improved. People were very happy to go to the Qin clan's restaurant to listen to music. This series of changes was truly inconceivable. But now everybody understood that the Jing clan had offended a lot of people. They were determined not to let Jingzheng live a good life. Everyone knew that Jingzheng was the one in charge of the Jing family shops. Now that this matter was made known, those who were friends with Jingzheng were all complaining that they couldn't bear it. How could Jingzheng live a good life? In just a short month, the shops in Jingzheng's hands were already on the verge of collapse. Not only were they being suppressed by various parties, but their good friends had also cut off their supply of goods. This was going to be troublesome. Jingzheng was so anxious that he was stomping his feet. On the other side, there was an endless struggle in the imperial court. Chapter 356. Jingzheng complained incessantly in his heart. He could only pay for the shop from his own pocket for a while. He asked someone to check which immortal he had offended. He had been living in peace in the imperial city for more than 10 years. How could there be such a big risk suddenly? The most obvious one was Qin Lu. Therefore, Jingzheng first investigated Qin Lu. Qin Lu was a brothel, and there were too many people coming and going. All kinds of messy information made Jingzheng a mess. However, the person behind all of this was like a fog. Another month had passed. From April to June, Jingzheng could be said to have spent his time in an abyss of suffering. The shop had already shown signs of loss, and there were no signs of a breakthrough or reversal. If this were to be reported to the old man, it would be a big problem. Jingzheng was anxious. At this moment, Jingzheng appeared very, very timely. In fact, Jingzheng didn't say anything. He just casually asked a few questions about the shop situation. Jingzheng had the idea of throwing his hands away. What? Give the shop to me to manage? Jingzheng looked at Jingzheng with a very surprised look and said, "Second brother, when did you become so generous? Don't tell me you set a trap for me again? I don't want this shop." Jingzheng looked at Jingzheng with a scrutinizing gaze. Jingzheng was happy when he heard this. He saw that Jingzheng still didn't know about the shop's incident. "Big brother, as you know, I've been taking care of the shop for so many years and it's really too tiring. Moreover, there have been too many matters in the imperial court recently. Big brother, please help me and take over this shop." Jingzheng quickly said, "Others may believe you, but I don't." Jingzheng snorted and said, "You are not fooling me. When the time comes, give me a dozen shops. I don't have the mind to take care of a few broken shops. You should manage it yourself." Jingzheng raised his hand and rolled his wheelchair to leave. Jingzheng quickly stepped forward and pulled Jingzheng's wheelchair. He had already said this. No matter what, he would give up the shop. How could Jingzheng let Jingzheng go? "Big brother, don't go." Jingzheng looked at Jingzheng seriously and said, "How can I only give you a dozen shops? Isn't this a joke? Are you going to give me all the shops in your hands?" Jingzheng looked at Jingzheng suspiciously and said, "No way. Second younger brother, tell big brother, did you do something incredible? Or did something happen to the shop?" "No, no. How is that possible?" Jingzheng laughed and said, "I really don't have time to care. If you give me all the shops, it would be a little more presentable." Jingzheng seemed to be weighing the pros and cons as he murmured. Then, he frowned and said, Forget it. I haven't taken care of the shops for a long time. I don't want it. Second brother, just let your subordinates take care of it." "It's not a big deal." After saying that, Jingzheng waved his hand, a look of disinterest on his face. "Aya, big brother." Jingzheng hurriedly pulled Jingzheng and said, "We are all blood brothers. I will give this shop to you. Big brother, please help me." "You're really giving it all to me?" There was still some disbelief in Jing Zhan's eyes. That scrutinizing look made Jing Zhang very anxious. He was afraid that Jing Zhan would find out that he had lost money. Without another word, he took out the store transfer certificate hidden in his sleeve. Chapter 357. Big Brother, take a look. I've already written the transfer agreement. I'm just waiting for Big Brother to put your thumbprint on it. How can it be fake? Jing Zhang said as he placed the transfer agreement in front of Jing Zhan. And it's indeed a transfer of property rights. Jing Zhan looked at it seriously, then hesitated. He still looked at Jing Zhang in disbelief and said, "You're really giving it to me just like that? I say, second brother, did you do something to the shop?" "I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you." Jing Zhang felt guilty under Jing Zhan's gaze. Without saying anything, he grabbed Jing Zhan's hand and pressed it on the transfer agreement. He quickly put his thumbprint on it and said, "Big brother, look. It's confirmed now. This shop is yours in the future, Big Brother." "You this?" Jing Zhan looked at the transfer agreement with his thumbprint on it with a dumbfounded expression. In the end, he stared at Jing Zhang helplessly. "Who?" Jing Zhang silently wiped off his cold sweat. He finally threw this thing away. It was really scary when he held it in his hand. Jing Zhang looked at Jing Zhan's stunned expression and showed a very sincere expression for the first time. He looked at Jing Zhan and said, "Big brother, this shop will depend on you in the future." It could be said that Jing Zhang felt incomparably comfortable when he said this. In the future, the loss of this shop will have nothing to do with me. Who knows, I might even use this matter to complain to the old man about Jing Zhan. Thinking of this, Jing Zhang's face suddenly bloomed with a smile. He casually found an excuse and ran away. When Jing Lang came back, he saw Jing Zhang go out with a smile on his face. Immediately, his face was full of doubts. He stepped into the hall and saw his father's sneaky smile. He was even more puzzled. "Dad, what happened?" Jing Lang asked puzzledly. "The shop is in our hands." Jing Zhan pointed at the paper on the table and said, "Really? How many do you have?" Jing Lang's eyes lit up. He strode forward and picked up the paper on the table and asked, "All of them?" Jing Zhan pretended to be calm as he picked up the teacup on the table and took a sip. Jing Lang's eyes widened when he heard that. "What?" That voice was so loud that Jing Zhan's hand that was holding the teacup trembled. "Why are you shouting so loudly? How old are you?" Jing Zhan glared at Jing Lang. He proudly put down the teacup in his hand and said, "Your old man is just playing hard to get. Isn't it easy to get this shop?" Jing Lang's face darkened as he looked at Jing Zhan. He quietly said, "This is all thanks to you, My daughter's contribution is mine." Jing Zhan's face was full of smiles as he hummed a tune and rolled his wheelchair out. Jing Lang face-bombed. Why did he feel that his father's style was a little off recently? "Brat, what are you standing there for? Hurry up and help me cross the threshold." While Jing Lang was holding his forehead, Jing Zhan shouted. It turned out that the wheelchair was stuck at the door and could not cross the threshold. "Yes, yes, yes. I'm coming." Jing Lang strode over and moved the wheelchair, pushing Jing Zhan far away. The news of the Prime Minister's shop being sold spread throughout the imperial city that day. For a moment, those who knew the inside story sneered at Jing Zhang. When he was making money, he didn't let go of the shop. Now that he was losing money, he quickly threw it out. Although this action could be said to be human nature, they were still blood brothers. For Jing Zhan to suffer such a loss, everyone felt that it was unfair for Jing Zhan. Chapter 358. Jing Zhan did not disappoint everyone. As expected, when he found out about the shop, he angrily went to find Jing Zhang to reason with him. In the end, he was sent away by Jing Zhang, saying that the shop had already been transferred to him and that it was his business. Jing Zhan was very angry. It was said that he smashed everything in the shop and even said that he would rebuild the shop. This made Jing Zheng so angry that he died. Obviously, everyone thought that Jing Zhan was just saying these words out of anger. Jing Zheng naturally thought so too. The shop was already in such a state. How could he rebuild it? It would already be good if it could be restored to its original state. Jing Zheng happily watched the show. He felt a burst of joy in his heart. Fortunately, he threw everything away and did not leave anything behind. Jing Zheng was very happy. When Jing Yu heard the news, she also laughed. She did not expect Jing Zhan to be so good at acting. His acting was really good. While the imperial city was in turmoil, the Tokyo festival also arrived. Xiao Yi had ascended the throne for a full 20 years. There was a celebration every 10 years. This year was the second 10 years, so it was 20 years. The celebration also happened to be Xiao Ye's 40th birthday. It was a double happy occasion. Envoys from various countries came to the Tokyo to congratulate him. There was still half a month before the celebration, but the princes and princesses of various countries were already on their way. Tokyo was located in the east of the continent. It was the head of the 4 countries. The small countries on the periphery were almost negligible. The world was divided into 4 major countries: Tokyo, Cebu, Nanli, and Northern Pastoral. Tokyo was the head, followed by Cebu, Nanli, and Northern Pastoral. This was the ranking 10 years ago. Now, another 10 years had passed. How had the countries developed in the past 10 years? This time, there would be another ranking for the celebration. Would Tokyo still be in first place? There was still half a month left. The Tokyo capital was already bustling with activity. The general's manor had also started to move. The ruffians in the imperial city had become more well-behaved during this time. If they were caught, they wouldn't even have the chance to go through the back door. Once they were caught, they would be locked up in the dungeon for at least 3 to 4 months before they were released. As for those ruffians who had committed evil deeds, they would be beheaded after the celebration. Even the interrogation procedures could be ignored. With such precedents, these people didn't dare to be disobedient. For a moment, the imperial city was quiet and looked like a country of etiquette. In order to welcome the arrival of such a big event, Jingyu was also thinking of ways to make money. He might even be able to use this opportunity to bring the name of these restaurants out of the country. Wouldn't the matter of spreading all over the world be realized soon? Thinking of this, how could Jingyu not be excited? How could she not be interested? Therefore, these days, Jingyu was almost everywhere. One side was teaching people how to make new desserts, the other side was teaching people how to make a different kind of clothing. It was worth mentioning that Lu Man sent 2 talents to her. The 2 girls were sisters. Because they were really desperate, they heard that the women in the Qin brothel could make their own decisions. They only sold their skills and not their bodies. Therefore, the 2 girls went to find Lu Man unexpectedly. After a conversation, Lu Man discovered that the 2 sisters were actually Taylor's daughters. She immediately thought of Jing Yu's and Aichang court. Therefore, she asked someone to bring the 2 sisters to Jingyu and let Jingyu make her own decision. You know how to make clothes? In the backyard of an Aichang court, Jingyu looked at the 2 twins standing in front of her and was stunned. The 2 of them looked exactly the same. Chapter 359. Jingyu looked at the twins standing in front of her and was stunned. These 2 looked exactly the same. Yes. The 2 bowed. Their expressions and actions were exactly the same. Jingyu was slightly dazed. She looked at the 2 and asked, "What are your names? Who is the older sister and who is the younger sister?" Servant Yao Rong is the older sister. Servant Yao Yu is the younger sister. Oh, you are the older sister. You are the younger sister. Jingyu nodded and said, "I heard Big Sister Man say that you used to be the daughters of tailors. Then do you know how to make clothes?" "Boss, we are embroiderers. We know how to embroider and do needlework, but there are too many processes for tailoring. We don't know everything." Yao Rong bit her lips and said, "Boss, as long as we have food to eat, we can work. We can learn what we don't know." Embroiderers. Jingyu's eyes turned slightly and a smile appeared on her lips as she said, "Compared to making clothes, I have more important things for you to learn. Yao Rong and Yao Yu looked at each other, their eyes filled with doubt. Jingyu smiled at the two of them and said, but before that, you have to help second Uncle Tang in this shop. Consider it as a test of your abilities. Oh, thank you, boss. Yao Rong and Yao Yu's eyes lit up when they heard this, and they hurriedly bowed in thanks. After Jingyu returned to the Prime Minister's residence, she rummaged through the cabinets for pen and paper. Yin Xiao once again got some charcoal for Jingyu. She looked at Jingyu lying on the table and drawing with a face full of confusion. Imperial concubine, what are you drawing two balls for? Yin Xiao looked at the things slowly forming on the paper and asked in confusion, you don't know this, do you? This thing is called a bra. Jingyu proudly said, no, it's called a bra. What? Yin Xiao was slightly dazed. Why did she have a strange feeling that it was better for her not to know what they were going to talk about? As expected, Jingyu patiently explained the use of the bra to Yin Xiao with the intention of letting her learn. It's worn on the chest. It's mainly used to adjust the shape of the chest so that it won't sag. It can make the chest more perky. Even more perky. More. Hey, don't go. I haven't finished speaking yet. Yin Xiao Yao's face was red as she rushed out of the room as if she was fleeing. What happened? Just as Jing Lang was about to step into the house, he saw Yin Xiao rushing out. He was instantly stunned and asked doubtfully, Empress Consort is in the room. Yin Xiao took a quick glance at Jing Lang. She lowered her head so much that she wanted to bury it in her clothes. Then, without waiting for Jing Lang to react, she ran off. Yin Xiao's face felt like it was on fire. Thinking about what Jingyu said just now, she instantly became even more embarrassed. How could a young lady talk about this kind of thing so openly, and even say it in such a... Yin Xiao hurriedly ran back to her own room and quickly washed her face. After she calmed down, she couldn't help but think about what Jingyu said just now. Could make the chest more perky and perky. Is it true? As Yin Xiao thought about this, she lowered her head and looked at her chest. A faint blush appeared on her cheeks. Jingyu looked at Yin Xiao, who ran out, and could only silently say that the thinking of the ancient times was really futile. She was just saying it. She hadn't even taken off her clothes to teach her how to wear it, and she was already like this. It seemed that if this bra was really made, what if no one dared to wear it? Everyone was so shy. Chapter 360. Each and every one of them was so shy. Thinking of this, Jingyu suddenly felt conflicted. It looked like she had to think of a way to get the best of both worlds. Yuer, what are you thinking about? Jing Lang strode over and asked Jingyu, who was deep in thought. Nothing. Jingyu neatly covered the things on the table. She looked at Jing Lang with a smile and asked, Big brother, why are you here? Do you need something from me? Father said that he wanted to bring you along to the celebration banquet this time. However, he thought that you didn't seem to have any suitable clothes, so he had me come over to inform you. There are still 10 or so days, so you have to hurry and prepare. Otherwise, you won't be able to make it in time. Jing Lang turned to look at Jingyu and pursed his lips as he spoke. Bring me along? Jingyu was slightly dazed. She looked at Jing Lang in confusion and asked, You're going to the palace again? The entire country is celebrating. The officials are allowed to bring their families into the palace to attend the banquet. You are the Prime Minister's legitimate granddaughter and the fiancée of the 9 emperors. Naturally, you have to go. Jing Lang nodded in all seriousness. Heavens! Jingyu looked up at the sky, speechless. She silently looked at Jing Lang and said, Can I not go? Let Jing Yin go. Nonsense. Jing Lang glared at Jingyu and said, Entering the palace is such a good opportunity. You actually gave it to Jing Yin. If father knew about this, he would definitely beat you up. Cough cough. I was just saying. Jingyu silently pursed her lips. All right, you should prepare well. As Jing Lang spoke, he stood up and was about to leave. Then, as if he had thought of something, he paused and said, Tell the people in the restaurant to be careful these few days. The princes and princesses of the other countries are coming. They must not offend them. Got it, Jingyu replied weakly. Looking at Jingyu's appearance, Jinglang helplessly shook his head and turned to leave. These few days, the imperial city could be said to be incomparably lively. Jingyu was in an obedient mood and did not even go out of the prime minister's residence. As for Xiao Qian, he was probably addicted to being a gentleman on the beam. Every night, he would climb into the room through the window and openly hug Jingyu to sleep. Jingyu had been doing nothing for 5 whole days. All she did was eat and sleep and eat, and then bury her head in drawing that bra. Every time Yin Xiao came in and saw it, her face would turn red, and Jingyu would have a discussion with Yin Xiao every time. After a long time, and the number of times they spoke increased, Yin Xiao also became calm. Later on, she could even say a few sentences occasionally. One had to admit that this person's ability to adapt was really admirable. Finally, I'm satisfied with the drawing. Jingyu held a stack of various bra designs. On it, there were descriptions of the various fabrics, and even the advertising slogans were written. For 5 whole days, Jingyu had been fiddling with these things. Today, Jingyu, who had been cooped up in the prime minister's residence for so long, was going to go out. After not going out for 5 days, Jingyu was dumbfounded when she saw so many people suddenly appear on the streets. These people obviously did not live in the imperial city. They must have heard the news and came from outside the imperial city. There were also the ministers at the border who came in response to the celebration. What the? A gathering of handsome men and beautiful women. Jingyu stared as she walked on the streets. Looking at the people coming and going, all of them were extraordinarily handsome. Could it be that this ancient era was full of beauties? So ugly that I can't bear to look at them. Jingyu's eyes turned and saw the men and women with crooked mouths and slanted noses. She silently turned her head. Handsome men and beautiful women were more pleasing to the eye. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.